You were pleasant. You remembered to make eye contact. You laughed in the right places. You answered the questions. You kept your face under control. You didn't interrupt. You didn't say what you were actually thinking. You noticed when your energy was too much and turned it down. You noticed when you went quiet and turned yourself back on. Nobody thought anything was wrong. That was the goal. And now you're home with absolutely nothing left. Not sad, not necessarily upset, just done. Sometimes exhaustion is not about how much you did. Sometimes it's about how much of yourself you had to manage while doing it. Today, we're talking about masking and the bill that can arrive after everybody else thought you were doing just fine. This is Wisdom from the Porch with GP. Masking can be easy to misunderstand. People sometimes hear the word and imagine somebody pretending to be something they're not. But for many neurodivergent people, it can be much more subtle than that. It can be constantly monitoring how you're coming across. Am I talking too much? Too fast? Too loudly? Did I interrupt? Was that joke weird? Am I making enough eye contact? Am I making too much eye contact? Do I look interested? Did I miss something? Is everybody else understanding this differently than I am? Should I ask for clarification, or will that make me look difficult? It can be suppressed movement, holding back a reaction, forcing yourself to stay engaged when your attention is slipping, rehearsing what you're about to say before you say it, watching other people for clues about how you're supposed to respond. None of those things automatically means someone is masking, and not every neurodivergent person exercises masking the same way. But when that self-monitoring becomes constant, it takes energy, a lot of it. That's where masking can create a strange problem. It works, at least from the outside. You get through the meeting, you perform well, you make the presentation, you handle the customer, you survive the family gathering, you get through the school day. And because you managed it, everybody assumes it was manageable. But those aren't the same thing. A person can successfully do something and pay heavily for it afterward. That's the important distinction. Because when the collapse comes later, people may not connect it to what happened earlier. You get home and you can't make another decision. You don't want anybody touching you, talking to you, asking you what you want for dinner. The television feels too loud. The lights feel too bright. One more request feels impossible. And somebody says, "What's wrong with you?" Nothing necessarily happened in the last 10 minutes. The whole day happened. You just finally reached the place where you didn't have to keep holding it together. Think about the difference between walking and walking while balancing a glass filled to the very top. You're still walking. From across the room, it may not even look that different, but every step requires extra attention. Don't spill. Watch your hand. Watch the floor. Slow down here. Correct that movement. Keep going. That's the part of masking I think people miss. The task itself may not be the whole workload. The meeting is one task. Monitoring your expressions through the meeting is another. Following the conversation is one task. Stopping yourself from interrupting is another. Doing the work is one task. Trying to appear as though doing the work is effortless, that can become another. And if you spend 8 hours stacking hidden tasks on top of visible ones, 6 o'clock can feel very different. This is one reason some people may appear completely capable in public, then have very little capacity left for home. The people closest to them may unfortunately get the version that has run out of fuel, not because home matters less. Sometimes because home is the first place the nervous system believes it's safe enough to stop performing. Here's another difficult part. You may not even know you're doing it anymore. Maybe you learned very early. Don't be too loud. Don't be too sensitive. Sit still. Stop talking. Pay attention. Look at me when I'm speaking to you. Why are you making that face? Why are you so intense? Calm down. Over time, you adjust and adjust and adjust. Eventually, the adjustment can feel like personality. You may become so skilled at reading the room that you stop asking what the room feels like to you. So skilled at keeping everybody comfortable that you don't even notice when you're uncomfortable. So skilled at appearing regulated that you don't notice how dysregulated you actually feel until you're alone. That's why this isn't simply a question of, am I pretending? A better question may be, how much energy am I spending managing other people's experience of me? Think about that. You don't have to suddenly drop every social adaptation you ever learned. That may not be realistic. And sometimes adapting to a situation is simply a part of being around other people. The goal is not, I'll never adjust myself again. The goal is awareness. Start noticing what costs you the most. Maybe it's large groups. Maybe it's environments where the social rules are unclear. Maybe it's long meetings. Maybe it's constant eye contact. Maybe it's suppressing movement. Maybe it's pretending sensory discomfort is not bothering you. Maybe it's forcing yourself to stay socially available long after you needed a break. Then ask, can anything change? Can the meeting be shorter? Can some conversations happen by email? Can you step outside for 5 minutes? Could you use headphones during focused work? Could you stop scheduling 3 socially demanding things back to back? Could you tell someone, I'm actually listening better if I'm not looking directly at you the entire time? Small changes matter because the goal is not necessarily eliminating every demand. It's reducing unnecessary ones. If you know certain environments require a lot from you, plan for the recovery too. That's not weakness, it's budgeting. You wouldn't spend all the money in your account, then act surprised when the card declines. Energy works the same way. If money contains 6 hours of meetings, maybe Monday evening doesn't need another social obligation. If a family gathering takes everything you have, maybe the next morning needs to stay lighter. If work requires constant interaction, maybe your lunch break needs actual quiet. The recovery is not separate from the activity. It's part of what the activity costs. And when you start thinking that way, you might stop judging yourself for needing downtime after something everybody else thought looked easy. There can be a strange question underneath all of this. If I've been masking for years, which version is actually me? I'd be careful with that question. You're not fake because you learned how to adapt. You're not dishonest because different environments bring out different parts of you. Everybody does some version of that. The concern is not whether you ever adjust. The concern is whether you have some place where you don't have to work so hard to exist. Anywhere your face can relax, your shoulders, your shoulders can drop. Your voice can sound like your voice. Your voice can sound like your voice. Your reactions don't require editing before they leave your body. You need somewhere where being understood does not require a performance list. Maybe that's with a person. Maybe it's at home. Maybe it's in a community. Maybe you're still figuring out where that place is, but you deserve to have one. Think about the part of your day that leaves you disproportionately exhausted. Not necessarily the busiest part, the part where you have to monitor yourself the most. What are you managing there? Your tone, your face, your movement, your attention, your reactions, other people's expectations? Just notice it. Because once you can see where the energy is going, you can start deciding where some of it might be saved. Maybe the question is not, why am I so tired? Maybe it's, what have I been carrying all day that nobody else could see? Before I go, this is Heard You. This one came in after the episode Wide Awake. Kevin Townsend, 8454, wrote, "Yeah, I struggle with this badly. I can be reading a book or watching a movie and pass out cold. When I put the book down or turn off the movie because I'm tired, though I'm instantly going 100 miles an hour in my head, and the thoughts are completely random. The majority are recent issues I'm dealing with, but they can go back 20 or more years." Kevin, instantly going 100 miles an hour says a lot. Because what you're describing is not simply, I'm not tired. You are tired. You're falling asleep. Then the stimulation stops and somehow your thoughts get the microphone. Recent problems, old memories, things from 20 years ago that apparently decided tonight was their night. And I think there's something important in the contrast you described. The book or the movie may be giving your attention somewhere to land. When that disappears, there's suddenly open space, and everything waiting in the background gets a chance to step forward. That doesn't mean every thought needs solving, and an old memory resurfacing at midnight doesn't automatically mean it contains some message you need to decode. Sometimes the useful move is simply recognizing, my brain has switched modes, then giving those thoughts somewhere else to live. A note, a sentence, something you can revisit tomorrow if it still matters. Because 20-year-old business doesn't automatically become tonight's business just because your brain remembered it at bedtime. And Kevin, the fact that you can fall asleep during the movie tells you something important too. Your body knows how to get tired. The challenge may be what happens when the external input disappears. That's a different problem. And sometimes naming the right problem gives you a much better place to start. Thanks for sharing that. If something from today is still sitting with you, drop it in the comments. I read everything. Some of it comes back to the porch. Today's episode is supported by Cloud Microphones, built for voices that have real things to say. cloudmicrophones.com. Thursday, you've answered questions all day, made decisions all day, handled problems all day. Then somebody asks, what do you want for dinner? And for some reason, that's the question that breaks you. We're talking about decision fatigue. See you then.